You know, it's been absolutely everywhere lately.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
It's this Netflix series, Adolescence. I mean, it shot straight to #1, felt like overnight.
Ah, yes. Adolescence. It's definitely stirred things up, hasn't it?
Totally. And suddenly everyone's grappling with some really intense stuff. You know, incel culture, toxic masculinity.
And that core premise,
Yeah.
the profoundly disturbing idea of a child who commits murder and, well, the shockwaves for the family.
Exactly. It just hits hard.
It has certainly tapped into a raw nerve, prompting a lot of necessary, if uncomfortable, conversations.
For sure. And while the entire series is undeniably powerful, one episode in particular has really stood out. Episode 3.
Right, episode 3. I've heard that too. It seems to be the one people are really dissecting.
Yeah, it's been called almost perfect in how it meticulously builds these character portraits, you know, pre-sentencing.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how a single episode, basically confined to one room, just 2 actors, how it can generate such a potent and, lasting impression. It really speaks to the power of focused narrative.
And that's precisely what we wanted to explore with you today. We really want to delve into why this specific episode resonated so deeply.
Okay, let's do it.
Think of this as, like, a direct line to understanding its impact. Those truly exceptional performances, the almost unsettling way they use sound.
Oh, the sound design, yes. We need to talk about that.
And that ending that just, well, leaves you reeling emotionally.
It's a real case study, isn't it, in how to construct tension and reveal character layers in a very limited space.
Couldn't agree more. Now, just a quick heads up before we go any further. We are going to be dissecting episode 3 in detail. So, yeah, spoilers ahead.
Definitely spoiler territory. Consider yourselves warned.
Okay, let's really dig into this. Starting with Erin Doherty's performance as Bryony. What an absolute powerhouse.
Phenomenal is, definitely the word. What strikes you immediately is the transformation from some of her previous roles.
Right, like 1,000 blows. Totally different.
Exactly. That broad East End accent is just gone, replaced by this very precise, almost clinical way of speaking. Posh and proper, you could say.
Such a deliberate choice, isn't it?
It instantly sets her up. This character who is highly educated, controlled, working within a very specific professional frame.
And you see her navigate this incredible emotional journey throughout the episode. She begins with this almost disarming warmth, friendliness.
Trying to establish that connection with Jamie.
Yeah. The hot chocolate with marshmallows, even that little joke about, what was it, regional bread differences?
Right.
Farm cakes or something.
Right, that lighthearted banter. It feels deceptively ordinary at first.
Deceptively is the key word.
Well, that initial approach, it's a pretty standard technique in clinical psychology, right? Especially with sensitive, potentially volatile individuals.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
You're trying to create a semblance of safety, of trust, to encourage openness. But like you said, it's such a stark contrast to what we know Jamie's capable of.
Exactly. And then there are these palpable shifts, these moments where Jamie's words, his demeanor, it just visibly unsettles her. Not just once, but twice, I felt.
Oh, yeah, you see it clearly. It's like watching that carefully constructed facade just start to crack.
Her smile fades, her posture gets more rigid. You see this intense focus in her eyes, the clinical professional sort of kicking in, trying to analyze him.
Doherty conveys that internal struggle brilliantly. You can literally see the professional training trying to take over, that attempt to stay objective while sitting across from a kid who's done this horrific thing. The intensity she brings is undeniable, but it's layered, you know? With that professional composure, the believability of someone doing a tough job while battling, well, human emotions, sympathy, maybe even fear.
It's remarkable, especially because we get basically zero backstory for Bryony, right?
Exactly. We know her job, her commitment, that's it.
And yet you're immediately invested in her reactions. You feel for her, her unspoken struggle. That just shows Doherty's skill.
Precisely. And the end of her arc in this episode, that flicker of disgust across her face.
Oh, yeah.
Followed by that single tear. Almost involuntary. It just sums up the immense emotional burden of those 5 sessions with him.
It felt so raw.
It goes beyond just a professional assessment. It's a human response to confronting something deeply, deeply disturbing.
That single tear said more than pages of dialogue could have.
Yeah.
And you're right, there were those moments. Like when Jamie starts describing what he could have done to Kate.
Chilling.
The sound in the room seems to just vanish. And all you're left with is this amplified sound of Bryony's breathing, that subtle thump of her heart, her stillness, that almost frozen look. It was intensely uncomfortable, but totally captivating.
And what's so powerful there is the restraint in her performance. Her stillness becomes a mirror for how unspeakable his words are. It amplifies the horror, Bryony's internal chaos, way more than some big reaction would have.
Yeah, it forces you to lean in, feel the weight of it.
Definitely.
Okay, let's pivot. Owen Cooper as Jamie, his very first acting role. And episode 3 was the first one they filmed. Crazy.
Incredible, isn't it? For a debut performance, it's truly astonishing. Absolutely class.
The sheer range he shows in just this one episode is pretty remarkable.
It truly is. You see this stark, unsettling dichotomy.
Right. He starts with this almost naive, childlike innocence, and then, almost without you noticing at first, it shifts. By the end, you're faced with this chilling sense of evil, this deep, toxic, murderous potential just simmering there.
It genuinely felt like watching two different people sometimes.
Totally.
And that duality is key to the episode's power. It avoids just painting him as a monster. It shows how that darkness can coexist with seemingly ordinary, even vulnerable traits.
Which makes it so much more disturbing and believable.
Exactly. One minute, he's this harmless kid asking for hot chocolate. The next, there's just this undercurrent, this feeling he's capable of something awful.
And his expressions, his tone, they could change on a dime. If Bryony said something that challenged him, made him uncomfortable.
You'd see it instantly, that flicker in his eyes, that tiny smirk that just wiped away the innocent look.
So unsettling.
And a very effective way to show his manipulative side. It keeps Bryony and us constantly on edge, never sure which Jamie you're getting.
And the sheer coldness sometimes. Lines like, "Did I scare you when I shouted I'm only 13? That's embarrassing." Delivered so flatly.
Yeah. Sends a shiver down your spine. You glimpse that truly heartless nature.
And it's such a massive contrast to how he seemed when he was first arrested in episode 1, remember? Scared, innocent looking.
It highlights how constructed that initial vulnerability was, what maybe looked like remorse then.
Yeah.
Through these later interactions, it seems more like, I don't know, another layer of manipulation. Or maybe just a fleeting reaction he quickly masked.
And that breakdown scene with the smashed hot chocolate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The sudden anger. And then immediately trying to twist it. Put words in Bryony's mouth. "You think I'm evil," or whatever he said.
So manipulative and deeply unsettling to watch. It's a perfect example of him trying to regain control when he feels exposed. The outburst distracts, then he tries to redirect, undermine her assessment.
And even in those final moments, as he's being taken away, there's this desperate need for validation from her.
Yeah, that sense that he's formed this twisted connection.
But you look at Bryony's face, and it's pure professional composure. You see, he just can't accept she doesn't actually like him, that it was just her job.
That final, almost pleading question, "Do you like me?" It just underscores his profound isolation, his misreading of professional care as, like, actual affection.
It's tragic in a really disturbing way. His desperate need for connection, however warped, from that initial innocent vibe to that chilling display. Cooper absolutely nailed it. He really brought that darkness in Jamie to life.
He really did. Showcased true range, revealed the evil within.
Okay, let's talk about something that might fly under the radar a bit, but was so crucial. The sound and the lighting.
Absolutely. These are those often unseen tools, right? Working on a subconscious level, but massively impacting the viewer's experience, the emotional hit of a scene.
That single take shot, the one that slowly circles the table, almost claustrophobic, creates this feeling of intense scrutiny.
Yes. And then those incredibly intimate close-ups during the really emotional moments. It just pulls you right into that room with them.
It traps you there.
The long take builds that unbroken tension, that immediacy, and the close-ups, they just amplify every tiny flicker in the actors' performances. You read their inner turmoil.
And how they use sound and light to underscore key dialogue. So smart. Like, remember when Jamie tells the story about his dad at football, feeling inadequate, his dad pulling away?
I remember that.
The ambient sound of the room just seems to drop away. The lighting gets subtly darker. It's like we're being pulled into this really dark, vulnerable part of his mind.
That sudden shift, audio and visual, it really directs your focus, emphasizes how significant that memory is, creates this intimacy, this vulnerability, makes you think about the impact of moments like that on him.
And then there's that other moment we mentioned when he talks about Kate, what he could have done. Sound vanishes again, but this time...
Bryony's reaction.
Yeah. Intense close-up on her, and you can hear her breathing so clearly, almost like a panicked gasp, and that subtle but distinct thump of her heart.
It's brilliant sound design. It puts us right inside Bryony's emotional, even physiological state. You feel her fear, her revulsion immediately, way more powerful than words.
Totally. And did you notice the use of that low-level static?
Yeah.
And the sounds of, like, heavy rain and wind outside?
Yeah, it was subtle, but there.
It felt like a barometer for Jamie's mood. The volume would creep up slightly whenever he got agitated or evasive.
And then drop back to almost silence when he gave a straight answer.
Right.
It created this underlying hum of unease, constantly hinting he could snap. It's a clever technique, using sound cues to mirror his internal turbulence, like a subliminal warning sign of his instability that his composure could break any second.
So effective. The visuals, the audio, perfect synergy created this incredibly immersive, deeply tense atmosphere. Okay, let's shift to the actual subject matter of this episode.
Right. The intention here seems quite specific within the whole series. The creators talked about deliberately moving away from the immediate crime aftermath, the legal stuff. Instead, it focuses intently on this interaction, the psychologist and the young perpetrator.
Exactly. Bryony's goal isn't solving the crime or deciding guilt. It's building that psychological profile. Trying to figure out if Jamie actually gets it, the gravity of what he did, the finality of death, what being found guilty means.
And we see Jamie doing this weird dance, don't we? Sometimes seeming like he's about to admit something, maybe even momentarily does admit guilt.
Yeah.
Before snapping back, getting defensive. It's fascinating. Is it internal conflict or just calculated manipulation? Hard to tell.
And the sheer irony.
Yeah.
Him saying, I don't like lying.
Right.
When literally the first words we heard him say in the whole series were, Dad, I haven't done anything. A total lie. The writing there is just razor sharp.
It highlights this huge disconnect in how he sees himself. Like he can't recognize his own deceit. Or maybe he's built this narrative where his lies are justified or don't count somehow.
You also notice his body language. At first, so guarded, arms crossed like a shield. But then those moments where his composure slips, he makes these revealing statements. Describing Kate as weak, what he could have done with the knife. Those glimpses behind the mask are so telling.
Those accidental revelations are crucial. They give us unfiltered access to his real thoughts, bypassing the persona he strive to maintain for her.
And Bryony's shift after those revelations is significant too. She goes from that initial, more empathetic professional
Yeah, she changes.
to asking these very direct, almost formulaic questions, and then that abrupt dismissal, thank you for your time. So cold, so detached compared to earlier.
It really underscores the impact on her. Hints at the emotional toll these interactions take on professionals in these fields.
Definitely. It emphasizes that emotional labor.
Right.
Maintaining professional detachment, facing something so disturbing. Training helps, but the human element is still there. Her shift shows how deeply Jamie's revelations affected her.
Absolutely.
In that tiny moment with the sandwich, remember that?
Oh, yeah, when she picks it up, realizes he's been eating it.
And immediately puts it back down with this look of, like, involuntary disgust.
That single action spoke volumes, a visceral reaction. The professional mask cracks completely, raw human revulsion takes over, a powerful, subtle sign of the impact he's had.
Exactly. This episode really stood out because of that intense, almost claustrophobic focus on trying to get inside Jamie's head. Such a stark contrast to the other episodes dealing with the wider fallout. It felt like the perfect pressure cooker to just dissect his psyche.
It really did. It provided this necessary, insightful pause in the main story, allowed for a deeper, more nuanced, and ultimately, more unsettling exploration of the kid at the heart of it all.
Now, digging a bit deeper, beyond just our take, there's been some fascinating stuff revealed about how they made it. This idea of it being a psychological chess match between Bryony and Jamie keeps coming up.
Yes, that analogy feels particularly spot on. Both characters are locked in this subtle, intense battle of wits, each with their own goals, their own strategies.
Bryony, the clinical psychologist, she's trying to get the truth right. Get a genuine assessment of Jamie's state for the higher-ups. There's this tennis match dynamic they mentioned. This constant back and forth where they shift roles, sometimes adversaries, sometimes almost like friends, sort of.
Albeit a very strange professional friendship.
Right, and then back to doctor-patient.
And that fluid dynamic keeps us guessing, too. Who's got the upper hand? Is Jamie playing Bryony? Or is she successfully guiding him towards some kind of truth?
Stephen Graham, one of the co-creators, even said he wanted it to feel like a David Mamet play.
Wow, okay. That really highlights the focus, doesn't it? Theatrical, dialogue-heavy, performance-driven.
Totally. Emphasizes the power of the words, the subtext, the acting, all in that one room.
Yeah.
And what adds another layer, this was actually Jamie and Bryony's final conversation.
Right. We don't know that watching it the first time necessarily.
Exactly. But knowing it adds this incredible sense of urgency, finality to everything they say, a weight of unspoken history between them.
That knowledge really imbues their exchanges with consequence. Suggests the previous sessions led to this moment. Bryony's maybe making one last push before time runs out.
Graham also talked about wanting to really deconstruct Jamie in this episode. And it's made even more impactful because Bryony, despite her experience, has apparently never dealt with a case quite like his.
Which just emphasizes how uniquely disturbing Jamie is, even for someone who deals with troubled individuals professionally.
The casting of Owen Cooper was obviously huge. They said he had something special. Graham knew immediately after their improv.
That instant conviction says a lot about Cooper's raw talent, the presence he brought right away.
They were struck by his real simplicity, apparently. Like, he wasn't so much acting as just genuinely processing and being the character, tapping into that darkness inside Jamie.
That approach gives it such authenticity, such rawness, avoids feeling forced, makes Jamie more believable, and way more unsettling.
And Erin Doherty's brilliance, her generosity as an actor, that was key too. They talked about how she could react in so many different ways, offer different takes, vital for their dynamic.
Her versatility, her willingness to explore the scene from multiple angles, it must have given Cooper so much to work with. Elevated his performance too, no doubt.
They had this unusual 3-week rehearsal period for each episode, which is wild for TV.
Very unusual.
With a whole week just on emotional beats, character development, section by section.
That extensive prep time allowed them to really get into the complexities, the dynamics, built a solid foundation for that intense one-shot filming.
Doherty said the more time she spent being Bryony, the more the character became part of her. That repetition in rehearsal gave them freedom, spontaneity when filming started.
That deep dive into character allows for more nuance, more instinct. Reactions feel real, not calculated. Boosts the believability.
Jack Thorne apparently said watching rehearsals felt like being in a theater rehearsal. He encouraged them to personalize the dialogue, make it their own. And Rhys Hyphens, who had worked with Doherty before, compared acting opposite her to playing jazz because she was constantly evolving, reacting.
Those comparisons, theater jazz, they really highlight that improvisational, responsive style Doherty has, suggests a really dynamic, collaborative vibe with Cooper.
So after rehearsals, they did tech run-throughs, then filmed. The director, Barentini, would give notes. Trust in Doherty would react organically to whatever Cooper did. Huge trust in their dynamic.
That trust lets things breathe, allows for a more fluid, less rigid filming process, fosters that spontaneity, that authenticity.
There's even that great story about Owen Cooper genuinely yawning in one take.
Really?
A moment of pure realism that apparently surprised and delighted the crew. And he actually preferred the one-shot style for this episode. Said once he was in character, he just stayed there for the whole scene.
That yawn is brilliant, just adds unexpected realism. And his preference for the one-shot, it speaks to how immersive it must have been for them too, lets them fully commit.
They keep coming back to that chess match idea, though. Viewers trying to figure out motives, intentions, who has the upper hand, maybe grappling with their own judgments of right and wrong.
It forces you, as the audience, to actively engage with the ambiguities, to question your own assumptions about them, this situation.
But despite her professional distance, you did feel Bryony cared about Jamie. On some level, right.
Yeah, there was an underlying sense of that. Genuine care, despite the job.
And from Jamie's side, Bryony was the only person really talking to him. Those sessions mattered to him. His desperate need was just to be liked, acknowledged.
It highlights that complex, maybe even subtly codependent dynamic. Bryony keeps boundaries, but her empathy shows. Jamie, isolated, misreads professional care as personal connection because he desperately needs any recognition.
In the ending of episode 3, it's not just the episode ending, it's the end of their relationship, their final session.
Right, and that realization triggers that intense outburst from Jamie. Rage, desperation. He's losing his only confidant, however professional it was.
Left with no one else to talk to like that.
His outburst is just profound abandonment kicking in, a desperate, futile attempt to get a personal reaction from her.
He's practically begging her, "Do you like me?" Lashing out, so raw, so vulnerable. And then that final lingering shot, Bryony crying alone at the table after he's gone.
That final image is so poignant, so revealing. It just underscores the massive emotional toll it took on her. Any illusion she could reach him, make sense of his darkness, shattered. The weight of his guilt, the horror of his revelations, it all just crashes down on her in that moment.
Doherty herself thanked Cooper for that intense tennis match, that mutual commitment. It's clear their dynamic, their collaboration was absolutely fundamental.
It really underscores that collaborative, mutually supportive performances built on trust from rehearsals. You feel that shared commitment in every single scene.
So when you really break it down, episode 3 of Adolescence,
Hmm.
what makes it so utterly compelling? It's that perfect storm, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The truly exceptional, nuanced performances from Doherty and Cooper. The incredibly subtle but profoundly effective use of sound and lighting, building that unbearable tension, conveying so much unspoken emotion,
Right.
and that deeply unsettling psychological exploration of Jamie and Bryony's reaction to him.
Absolutely. It's a masterful blend. Compelling writing, extraordinary acting, sophisticated technical skill, all working together perfectly. Creates something unforgettable, deeply unsettling, and really thought-provoking.
And that leaves you, the listener, with a lot to mull over, doesn't it? What does this intense, intimate portrayal, a psychologist grappling with a young murderer, what does it really reveal about how complex it is to try and understand, to confront the nature of evil?
Yeah.
And what does it tell us about the profound, often unseen emotional burden carried by people who do this difficult, essential work every day? It's definitely something to keep thinking about long after the credits roll.